First one up is Andres, I guess. He says, hey, SM, wanting to jump into lead gen SEO, but still not sure how to track leads and calls. I know I can use something like callrail or twilio to get a phone number and route a lead to a buyer, but how do I know that they actually made a sale from the lead? Well, you can't really without asking, but if you're getting into lead gen, it's your job to generate the lead, not generate the sale. Does that make sense? So like, you depending on how you arrange the agreement with your lead buyer or service provider, whatever you want to call them, there are agreements or arrangements where you only get paid if they close a sale, but I would never recommend that to somebody right off the bat. I would only recommend kind of creating that sort of a relationship with the service provider after you've had some sort of history and a track record of them being successful at closing the leads that you send them. Does that make sense? So what I mean is, typically on lead gen, you're either going to do a rank and rent, which is basically where you just lease them the digital asset that's generating the calls for a flat monthly fee. That is absolutely the easiest way to get into the business. It requires the least amount of management because you don't have to track individual calls and everything else. You don't have to worry about all of that, but you leave the most money on the table that way, in my opinion. The next way is pay per lead, right? Or pay per call, either way. And that is how most people do it. And I think that's probably one of the better ways once you have at least some infrastructure in place, like some systems and processes and the ability to track calls and, keep records of them and all that kind of stuff. And I'll give you a couple of resources that I use specifically for my lead gen business that I think are going to help you. But then lastly, what I call revenue share, which is where, and I've got that arrangement with two different contractors right now, actually, where I generate the lead and I send the leads to them and they don't pay me for the lead unless they close a sale. Like, in other words, if they sell a tree service job, then I get 10% of whatever that tree service contract was. And that's what my payment is for referring the lead to them. But like I said, I never would encourage anybody to try that unless you have a track record with somebody that's doing rank and rent for a period of time and pays you on time and tells you that they've got good closing ratios and, that kind of stuff, or they're buying leads from you and they pay you on time and they're happy with the leads. So they keep buying leads from you, which means they're obviously closing a good percentage of them, or else they wouldn't keep buying leads from you. And then you could always offer that at a later time. But I would never encourage anybody. Trust me, I've done it many times over the years where I've tried to come right out of the gate with like, hey, I won't charge you for anything. You only pay me for leads that you close. And you end up getting burned that way many, many times where your effort goes you don't get compensated for your effort because either they suck at sales and they're not closing any sales, or they flat out lie to you and tell you that they're not closing sales. And there's ways to find out. Trust me, I've done it. There's ways to find out whether that's true or not. So I don't recommend that. But really quickly, and then I'll let somebody else comment on this. I just pulled it because I saw this question earlier. There's two different things that I use for specifically track besides just call tracking. I use these two systems in my business for lead gen, which is high level. So if you go to semanticmastery.com/high level, one word, then it'll take you over to there. They've got a 14-day free trial, but they've got a $97 plan subscription plan that is, I think it's absolutely critical. If you're running an agency or a lead gen business, that you have something like high level. I think it's like an agency automation platform that does so many things. And you can use it for just your own business to begin with, but then I would recommend you would upgrade to an agency level at some point, which is $300 a month, because then you can actually sell that as a service to clients or to your lead generator, or your lead buyers, which is kind of how I do it. Every lead buyer that I get now gets a seat or their own, high level account that's a sub account of my high level account. Because then I can track and show them, like through the high level, through their high level account or sub account, I should call it, that I can show them all of the activity, the number of leads. There's a sales pipeline that I built in, which for tree service contractors, it's a 5-stage sales pipeline. So at any given time, I can just really quickly take a look at their pipeline and see exactly where leads are and that kind of stuff. So I think it's an absolutely critical component. to running a lead gen business. Even if you're just using it to monitor your own or to run your own business at first, before upgrading to an agency account where you can then, have sub accounts. So that's number one. And number two is if you go to semanticmastery.com/lead simplify, which is one word as well, that's going to take you over to Mike Martin's lead simplify system, which is a great system. I also use this in my business for lead gen, especially because if you're selling on a pay per lead basis or rank and rent, either way, but on a pay per lead basis, this is a really, really good system because it can automatically distribute leads that come into the system out to all of your lead buyers that are in the system. So in other words, they'll get an SMS and an email notification that a new lead has come into the system that meets their criteria. And then they can log into their account because they get sub accounts of your lead simplify account, and they can see redacted information about the lead, but it gives like pertinent information, like which city or the zip code that the lead is in, partial name, partial phone number, and then the job description. And if they want, they can purchase that lead, and they just deducts credits from their account and they purchase credits from you. So my point is, between high level and lead simplify, I use the two of those together to run my lead gen business. And high levels, like I said, $97 a month to have just an account for your own agency. But then lead simplify is incredibly inexpensive. I think it's like $40 a month or something like that. But it's totally worth it if you're going to be running a lead gen business to use both one or both of these. I prefer using both, actually. And both of these systems will they integrate with Twilio anyways, so you can literally generate new phone numbers for different lead gen assets or different projects, different campaigns, right within either one of these systems. So it makes it incredibly easy. And you can communicate within these systems, send SMS text messages, you can make phone calls, you can do round robin dialing, all kinds of really cool stuff with either one of these systems. So that would be my suggestion to you, is to try both of these. And don't worry about whether they're closing sales or not. Whoever you're selling the leads to, at least not up front. Your job is to generate the lead, not close the sale. That's their job. You should get paid for generating the lead, period. Then once you've established a relationship with them, if you want to help them to get better at closing sales, for example, like set them up with their own sales pipeline, which will help them to keep track of a lead and which stage it's in and all of that, then that's when you can upgrade like high level to an agency level and sell them a seat in there, and then help them to, work out their sales process and all that, and just get better at follow up and all that other kind of stuff, where they get higher conversion rates, if that makes sense, right? And then you can get paid for that as well. So anybody want to comment on that?
Yeah, the whole point of doing a lead gen or pay per lead, pay per call is that you can't know what it is that they're making from a lead unless you have access to their books and to their backend, to the revenue that they're generating. And there's very few people that'll let you in that way, like right from the start. The whole point of getting into it the way that you are in lead gen is that your only concern is how many calls they're getting or how many warm calls they're getting versus calls that could be from, I don't know, just someone who people spam phone numbers, or people just make sales calls. So you either get paid for the bulk number of calls, 200 calls a month, or you get paid for each call that mentions one of the hot words in the industry. For example, I need a plumber. A call that says, I need a plumber right now, that's hot. You get paid for that. Versus, yeah, I'm calling to see how much a plumber would cost if I were to call. That's neither here nor there. It could turn out into a lead. I think the whole point of what Bradley's trying to say is, unless you can get into the books and unless they give you access to the books, you shouldn't get into the per lead, per closed lead model. You can get burned really bad, especially in a cash business where people can run parallel books. One set of books that gets turned over to the bookkeeper, another set of books that includes all the cash sales, and then you're missing out on maybe more than 50% of the money that you should have coming, simply because they're cooking the books, right? So it's a way for you to protect yourself if you're just getting into the pay per call model or the pay per lead model, but don't get into the paid per closed lead model, because then it's really difficult for you to track the closed leads unless they give you access to the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just actually opened up one of my lead buyers high-level sub accounts, and this is it here. And so this is the 5-stage pipeline that I run. So all leads come into this pipeline here, and we're just showing open leads right now. But it's great because we get to track the different stages of where the lead is, and go to the dashboard, and it shows essentially the entire business right here. And it shows that since February of 2021, he's basically sent out $172,000 in proposals. He's only closed about 15% of them, but $46,000 in work has been generated from this pipeline since February for this one tree contractor. And again, this is just the 5 different leads here. And so at any given time, I can determine where the lead is and what process it is, what the contract value is of the job, that the estimate that was quoted, and all of that. And this is all done in high level, and it sends out all the notifications and everything. Everything is built into this, which I built into this, so that when a quote request estimate comes in, or estimate request comes in, the contractor gets notified that a lead's available. He can go right into the app and reply back to the app and to the customer or prospective customer via SMS text message or email right inside the app. It keeps all the communications or conversations inside the app. And so it gives me a lot of control. And at any given time, if a tree contractor has a problem with anything, he can just send me a text message or call me and say, hey, I got a problem, and I can jump into the account and resolve it very, very quickly. So it's a great system. It's an integral part of my business now, and I can't say enough good things about High Level. If you're doing agency work or lead gen work, I think it's critical to have this. So